unmute yourself. Dr. Pillai, please unmute. You have to unmute Dr. Pillai. Just press the. Yes.
Can you hear?
Yes, we can. Yeah, we can hear you. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Goyal, for the kind introduction. It's actually a proud privilege for a non-resident Indian to be in India, although not at the right time, but talking on a right cause. Honestly, I'm so proud to be an Indian at this point, because whatever you say about the negativity of our work on COVID control, relatively, we are doing much better than many other countries. Let me give you the statistics. This morning, WHO has published that there are 9 million infected cases all over the world, of which 468,000 people have died. In terms of the actual incidence, India has about 30 cases per lakh of population, and the global average is 114 per lakh of population. And compare this to USA, it was 670 cases per lakh of population. I know some eyebrows would be frowning upon me because the number of cases per 100,000 will depend on the number of tested cases. We may not be near many of the developed countries in the actual testing of the population, but barring that, our recovery rate is 56%. Perhaps the best example of a comprehensive approach giving us positive results is the Dharavi story from Mumbai. This is an area, one of the largest slums in India, where in a 10 square feet area, there are 10 people staying every day. And we were concerned that this is going to be a volcano, which could erupt any time and sort of cause one of the biggest public health problem for India. It didn't happen. Thanks to the public health workers and the leadership in Maharashtra, we contained that in spite of the disease being present in a slum area where a 10 square feet accommodation facility was accommodating 10 people, and the disease is under control. So some credit should go to the strategy which government of India and of course our hardworking healthcare workers have done in the last few weeks. Now, what's going to be of concern is the two pieces of report which came in last 2 days of newspapers. One is from the WHO Director General, that the politicalization of our approach to global COVID control is going to interfere in our success. It's a matter of grave concern. The second point is that there is no unified approach all over the world to tackle this pandemic, which is also a matter of concern. We know that. But luckily, in India, the politics didn't come into the play of our fight against this pandemic, thank God. And that's probably the reason why we are still winning the battle. And I repeat the term, we are winning the battle. We haven't won the war. The reason why we may find it difficult to win the war, all the experts say that this disease may last for at least a year and a half. It may be sporadic, it may be seasonal, but it's not going to go away for another 18 months to 24 months until we have a successful vaccine. Now, the adjective here is successful vaccine, because although 120 laboratories are working on developing an effective vaccine, the safety and the efficacy are still at large. We still don't know whether any of them is going to be effective. One area of concern is the new report from China today that those who recovered from the mild and moderate infections had the IgG antibody in their system only for 3 months. This is a little worrisome, because why is it that these antibodies are not persisting in this system? And you have to tie it up with a new report from South Korea, a nation which has won laurels for controlling the disease, about the second wave of corona in South Korea, and they're concerned about it. So both China and South Korea are now concerned about a second wave of COVID. Can it be too far from India? We don't know. My own suggestion is that this is the time our clinicians have to move into the field. Our public health workers and our case control managers and our visionaries in ICMR have all done an outstanding job. Kudos, hats off to them. But this is the time our All India Institute of Medical Science, PGI Chandigarh, PGI in Pondicherry, and all the All India Institutes of Medical Science should band together and start studying this problem. Are we dealing with different diseases? How do you explain the infectivity and the mortality being so polarically different in different population age groups? For a long time, we were taught that the Italians proved that the disease is very high in people above the age of 60, 65, because the death rates in nursing homes was very high. We also believe so because a large number of people above the age of 60 and 65 died in the northern part of India along with the COVID. But look at the NRIs, non-resident Indians coming from Gulf countries. More than hundreds of them have died of COVID, and many of them are in the prime of their youth. So this is not the whole story. I would like to borrow a parlance from the legal field. In fighting this disease, we may be seeing the truth. We may be seeing nothing but truth, but we haven't seen the whole truth. And the challenge before Indian medical establishment and public health experts is to find out the whole truth. And this can be won only by a teamwork. It's not going to be an exclusive domain of either public health workers or policy decision makers or epidemiologists. We need to put all our brains together. So we cannot delay constitution of a clinical team to look into the data in India, why the disease is dwindling in some parts, in some places it has gone up. In fact, the latest I hear is the doubling of the numbers the last 24 hours in many countries is a matter of great concern. Now, Indian clinicians will have to look into the clinical profile of this disease. How many of them are ending up mild? How many in the moderate group? How many are in the severe group? We should also start looking into these wild claims of medicines being effective in the mild and the moderate diseases. No medicine has been proven to be effective in lengthening the survival of the severe cases which require hospitalization, ICU care, ventilatory support. So all these success rates and claims of efficacy are coming from groups who are treated for mild, moderate disease. Again, it is time for our clinicians to start looking with a magnifying lens. Did that really make a positive impact? So my suggestion is, we have won the battle. We are fighting for the war. It is time that we need to start looking from the small truth, nothing but truth, but the whole truth. To fight this whole truth, we need an excellent team of clinically trained immunologists, and we have many of them all over India in our prestigious institutes, public health experts, virologists, and policymakers. And I think the victory will be ultimately ours, because the profile of the disease in India gives us a lot of hope that India can be a trailblazer in this fight against a malady which is threatening the mankind all over the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pillai, for giving the details that how India is still better than other countries, and especially in the mortality rate. And you have also said that it is a time now that everyone has to join hands and do the brain drilling and try to find out the solution, how to conquer this virus effectively. And we have to win the battle because it's the fight is still on. Now I would like to go to our next panelist. He is Dr. Ramen Goyal. He is the President of Indian Association of Gastrointestinal Endosurgeons, IAGES, which have more than 8,000 surgeons as members. Dr. Goyal has been conferred recently the honorary FRCS by Royal College of Surgeons, Edinburgh. Dr. Goyal is a renowned bariatric surgeon based at Mumbai. Welcome, Dr. Ramen Goyal, on this show. Now, Dr. Goyal, you have heard what Dr. Pillai has said. And he said that the fight is on. We have not yet won the battle. And he also mentioned that all the brains, whether they are policymakers or the doctors or the scientists, everyone should join hands and try to find the solution, because then only we can very well effectively say that we can control the disease. So now I would like to know from you your views on COVID-19. Can India still control Corona? Dr. Goyal, please.
Hello. Yeah, that's a very valid question. And a lot of people are asking it from doctors now all over the country. And whether India can win this war or not, of course, there is no other choice. I mean, where is the option of not winning this battle? And can we do it now? Yes, of course, we can do it now. We could have done it yesterday, but let's do it today. And things have changed. You know, once the lockdown came, there had been a lot of benefits of our early lockdown. And what Dr. Pillai was alluding and the whole world is alluding about low deaths, it can be very well explained with the early lockdown that our healthcare system was adequately equipped to manage those patients who are coming in small numbers. Deaths in developed countries like Italy, Spain, and United Kingdom happened because the numbers rapidly multiplied. If numbers are allowed to multiply in our country, this death rate of 3% that we are very proud of may not hold for very long. So I think, as Dr. Pillai said, let's see the whole truth. Let's bring out few facts. Let's do a fact check. Living with virus in a situation like India is not an option at all. It may be a good option in United Kingdom and in United States of America or in Italy, where the healthcare system is significantly evolved, where the lowest strata of society are provided free healthcare by the best healthcare system in the world. Unlike India, where the best healthcare system is available for private patients and the public healthcare system has not kept pace with the requirement. So I think I'm very optimistic that even if we take adequate steps today, we can take care of Corona. But taking care of Corona is not living with Corona. Taking care of Corona in India has to go above the Corona to eradicate Corona from the country in a defined period of time. It could be 3 months, it could be 6 months, but it has to be done that way. We cannot gloat over our low death rates or low numbers. We just saw what happened in Delhi. The moment central government got involved in managing the Delhi healthcare in last 1 week, the numbers more than doubled. And so that itself shows that if the testing is increased, the real numbers will start coming. And this is still not enough. If the testing is doubled today in Delhi, again from the current number, the number will further go up. Now, put that across the whole country, the numbers are likely to be significantly higher. Let's not put our heads in the sand and say that nothing is wrong. We have achieved a lot by an early lockdown, but I think that benefit, that advantage is getting lost. Because what is happening is, in absence of a definite plan, all over the country, a uniform plan. So what we are seeing, some cities are doing good, some states are doing very well, some states are not doing well. Now, we need to have a central plan. This is a national emergency. This is like a super cyclone running through this country for last 3 months. We cannot get distracted by anything else. You know, when a cyclone comes, you don't think of starting new industries. You don't think, I agree that economy is very important, but this is the time, like how whenever you, those who have seen BBC, whenever the Prime Minister of UK would address, the title in front was Save NHS. This is the time to put entire effort in saving our healthcare system so that they save the citizen when the surge comes. And surge is bound to come, because as we are opening up the country at a time when so there are very few countries, I want to explain, who opened up their lockdown when the numbers were going down. These countries include United Kingdom, this country include USA, this is Brazil. All right. Now, in all these countries, numbers have gone up. We also are in the same situation, and the surge is coming. I mean, Brazil, yesterday, there were about 180,000 patients in a day. So when such a surge comes, we cannot afford to lose any citizen. You know, we have this Black Lives Matters campaign, which media is covering so much. Why not we have a campaign of every life matters? Every life, the person who is dying, we just say 200 deaths in a day in a city or 100 deaths. These deaths, every death means a family is devastated. So I think the way the emphasis on every death in USA, like how they put out the names of all those dead people on the front page of a newspaper, media has to highlight these issues so that people get sensitized. And it can be done. It's not a big deal. We have enough resources. If you look at the overall funds that are available in various disaster funds all over the country, they are over $3 to $4 billion. They are not small funds. That will not take away the resources that are available for economic development. They are there. So I think one should always remain optimistic. We could have done it when the number were just 500 when the lockdown was announced. We could have done when the numbers were 30,000. We can do it now also when the numbers are reaching 5 lakhs. We have to do it because if the numbers reach substantially more, let's say in tens of lakhs, and suddenly the death rates go up, we will not have the resources or the healthcare system to reduce the deaths at that time. I think that is a concern. That's my primary concern. And this is the time to act. It is not tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Goel. This is the time to act, not tomorrow. You have made very clearly, you also mentioned that the early lockdown helped our country to contain the mortality rate. But if we will lose it, if we will not have the same thing what has been done earlier, we will not be able to contain this because our healthcare system will be overloaded. Now, we would like to take the other side views because now we have two panelists who are representing the government. We have heard today right now from two doctors who are independent doctors. Now we would like to know from those two people, eminent people who are representing the government here. First, I would like to go to Dr. Dinesh Chand Katoch. Dr. Dinesh Chand Katoch is the advisor Ayurveda in the Ministry of Ayush, Government of India. From 2008 to 2011, he was on deputation with WHO as national consultants and focal point for providing technical assistance and coordination in implementing WHO Government of India cooperation strategy for traditional Indian medicine and homeopathy. He is the Secretary of Ayurveda, Siddha, Unani Drugs Technical Advisory Board, as well as ASU Drugs Consultative Committee under the provisions of Drugs and Cosmetics Act 1940. He has authored several articles and represented India in many international delegations to the countries including USA, UK, Germany, Switzerland, Russia, China, etc. Welcome, Dr. Katoch, on the show. Dr. Katoch, you have heard what Dr. Pillai has said, in which he has said that India is fighting, but India has to win the battle. And to win the battle, he said that all the brains, whether the medical, whether the policymakers, everyone should come together and apply their mind to see how we can conquer this virus. You have heard Dr. Ramin Goel. He mentioned very clearly that today we are in position of that because our mortality rate is low. But if the surge will come, then our healthcare system is not adequate to take time the death rate can go up. Now, we would like to know from your side, because you are giving your expert advices to the government and you are actively involved in that. Now, what you say about today's topic, that is COVID-19, can India still control Corona? Dr. Katoch, please.
Thank you, Mr. Lal, for the kind introduction. And Also, namaskar to all the fellow panelists. Friends, as you said, Dr. Goyal and Dr. Pillai, that it is to win the war. Now, so winning the war, the most important thing is first our defense should be strong. Our defense. If defense is strong, it means that defense itself becomes offensive. So that can oppose the things. Now, in our country, if you see the healthcare delivery system of the country, of India, I think India is one country in the world which is having pluralistic healthcare delivery system, pluralistic. So many systems are officially recognized other than conventional system of medicine, which we call as the modern system of medicine or the Western medicine. We have Ayurveda, we have yoga, naturopathy, we have Siddha, we have Unani, homeopathy, Sorepa. So, and these systems have been given official recognition right from independence, rather before independence. And if you see in our country, India contributes 11% of the world population. I think around 11%. But if you see the disease burden, the global disease burden, India's contribution is 21%. 21% of the disease burden that lies in India. Now, all kinds of disease burden, whether it is communicable disease burden, non-communicable disease burden, climatic change, and this climatic change induced disease burden. So all those things are there. So triple burden disease is there. And this particular COVID-19, it is a communicable disease, and I think this has affected the country the way it has affected the other countries. But still, we are far behind. We are far behind, and I think the reason could be if you see the traditional health practices. If you see the traditional health practices, the rural people, the rural masses, they are relying on traditional health practices. And if you just go back to the Prime Minister message on 28th March, when he made the first message to the nation, he pointed out very categorically that it is in the emerging scenario of COVID-19, I think the best thing would be enhance the immunity, improve the immunity. So immunity boosting measures of Ayush, these are very, very important, because unless the intruder, if we control the intruder, it means that is the best offense. That is the best offense. And this kind of approach is there in the Ayush systems. And if you see on 28th March, when this, after 28th March, on 14th April, on Constitution Day, when again Prime Minister addressed the nation, he mentioned 7 steps for control of COVID-19, social distancing, masks, etc., other things are there. But he specifically referred to immunity boosting measures and the Ayush decoction. Now, Ayush decoction, it is a formulation of 4 traditionally used herbs like tulsi, then dalchini, then ginger, and now this formulation, this is being distributed in the rural areas. It is being used by the populations, and there are reports from the states that lot of immunity means that prophylaxis has happened. Now, means the people, they are being prevented from onset of the disease. They are being prevented from this COVID-19 infection. Now, one thing is very clear. If you see from the perspective of Ayush systems, the virus, it is an external factor. It is an exogenous factor. And if our intrinsic factors, means the immunity, the intrinsic factors, these are also responsible for the causation of the disease. If the intrinsic factors mean the immunity, if they are strong enough, they are stable enough, I think we can oppose, we can combat the COVID-19 infection. Even if there is entry of the virus into the body system, it is not going to multiply because the immunity system is strong in the body system. So I think the best way is to enhance the immunity, to promote health protection, health promotion. Now, if in your country, I think in the opening statement, you made that India has around 11.2 lakh allopathic practitioners. If you see the other side, we have around 9 lakh registered Ayush practitioners. They are institutionally qualified practitioners. So when this COVID-19 started, now immediately in the month of April, this training was given to the Ayush doctors also, and today we have around 1.5 lakh COVID Ayush warriors. Now, even the Ayush institutions, some of the Ayush institutions, they have the COVID centers. The COVID-19 patients, they are admitted there. Like in Delhi, the state government, they have authorized 3 centers. One, this Chaudhary Brahm Prakash Government Ayurvedic College Hospital, and similarly Ayurveda and Tibia Unani College and All India Institute of Ayurveda. Now they are the authorized COVID centers. The patients, they are coming there. COVID-19 positive patients are there. Now, on one hand, we have the policy. If you see the national health policy, it speaks that there should be integration at all levels: primary healthcare level, secondary healthcare level, tertiary healthcare level. I think the integration for combating this COVID-19, I think that could be the best step which we can take. But that integration is not happening. I think it is an unfortunate thing that where the COVID patients are going, like in the allopathic hospitals, there the integration in the treatment, that approach is not there. I think once this is adopted, in few centers it is happening. And now under the umbrella of Government of India, the scientific institutions like CSIR, ICMR, and a task force was constituted on the direction of the Prime Minister. Now that task force has recommended to conduct certain studies, and the 4 prominent hubs of Ayush system, like this Glycyrrhiza glabra, Ashwagandha vidania somnifera, Tinospora cordifolia, and the other is that Tinospora cordifolia along with the piperine, that is Piper longum. Now there are enough indications that there are scientific indications, there are scientific studies which have proven that these medicines, these products, these are antiviral, antioxidant, immunomodulatory, and they strengthen the immune system. So what, for the sake of creating scientific evidence, now these studies need to be done on a large scale. And if the allopathic hospitals, the medical institutions, if they come forward and if they join hands with the Ayush side, I think a lot of things can be done. And that could be the best way, the integrated approach and the synergistic approach, and to enhance the immunity of the population. I think that could be the best step by which we can protect India from this outbreak of COVID-19.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Katoch, for giving your views that how Ayush Ministry and Ayush doctors are doing effectively to increase the immunity. And according to you, if the immunity is there, then even if the coronavirus enters in the body, then the effect is not that deadly and a person can survive. And you have also mentioned that the integration is required between allopathy and Ayush, so that the patients can be given the immunity boosters or what Ayush Ministry is giving, so that the patients can be survived. Now,
one more point I would like to say.
Yes, please.
When on 28th January, when we issued the public advisory, means what are the common Ayush interventions which people can use. So like this turmeric in milk and this Ayush decoctions. Now we have created one app, that is Ayush Sanjeevani. Now we are getting the feedback from the people. So around 40 lakhs people, they have given the feedback that, okay, they did not suffer from any kind of this flu-like illness in the last 2 months. So means the immunity boosting is important, prophylaxis is important, and that prophylaxis that cannot be done on this much scale by vaccines. I think these measures, the traditional health practices and the traditional medicinal remedies, I think these can provide an answer to this.
Okay, so according to you, the traditional medicines and traditional herbs can provide the immunity, and because of the immunity, many people are not getting any flu type of even the disease. Thank you, Dr. Katoch. Now I would like to go to the another. He is a bureaucrat and he is representing the government again. He is Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, IAS. Dr. C.V. Anand Bose is the Principal Advisor, Government of India Heritage Project. He is now appointed as one-man expert commission on labor to prepare an action plan for the welfare and development of the workforce in the context of COVID-19. Dr. Bose is an housing expert, innovator, writer, orator, and visionary. Dr. Bose is a recipient of 31 national and international awards, including United Nations Global Best Practice Award. He also received prestigious Jawaharlal Nehru Fellowship, and he was always termed by everyone, whether the Kerala government or our earlier Prime Minister, Mr. Manmohan Singh, or the present Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, that he is a man of ideas with loads of ideas. So, Dr. Bose, now we would like to know from you. You have heard from Dr. Pillai that his views are very clear, that until unless the policymakers and the doctors and everyone will not sit together, apply their mind, apply their brains, then only we can conquer the battle. You have heard Dr. Goyal, who has emphasized that if we will not control the virus now, it will be a very difficult time in future, because our health system will not be able to take the load of the patients if the surge will be there after we are going to open the open 2 and whatnot in future. And you have also heard Dr. Kachoj, who has mentioned very clearly that the Ministry of Ayush has already issued the immunity boosters and which is there already. And according to him, those who are on those immunity booster, they are not getting even a flu-like disease. And he also said that an integration is required between allopathy and the traditional medicine. Now, you being in the government, and you are such a man of ideas as well as a bureaucrat. Now, what you say, how we can do, because today's our topic is that India, COVID-19, can India still control Corona? So we would like to know your views. Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, please. Please unmute yourself.
Okay?
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you, Goyal sir. First of all, let me salute the Indian medical fraternity for the outstanding work and selfless work, dedicated work, which they have done and are doing to combat COVID. As it is said about the British Air Force during the World War, I have no hesitation to say about the doctors of India. Never before has so much been done by so few to so many in so short a time. Dr. M.B. Pillai, the doyen of medical science, the institution builder, he has drawn his analysis from war, yes. We may lose a battle, but we will win the war. And what he underscored is very important from the government point of view. This I am saying because Mr. Kachoj is here. See, he said, quoting from the legal parlance, as far as COVID is concerned, we want the truth. The whole truth and nothing but the truth. There is a dearth of data, perhaps, as far as COVID is concerned. For instance, Delhi. How came that the number increased so suddenly? When there is testing, the number increased. So therefore, it is a basic tenet. Lack of evidence, absence of evidence, does not mean the evidence of absence. We have to be realistic about what is happening in the country, and I compliment the government of India for doing its best for this. But as Dr. Pillai said, and earlier, in another meeting like this, Dr. Goyal also pointed out, when we ask the question whether we have a choice between health and wealth, life and livelihood, survival and revival, Dr. Goyal was emphatic 1 month back. He said, there is no such choice, health is important. We have to focus on health. I think our only focus should be on health till the situation improves. And how can you go about it? Some suggestion is there that we should not mind even the GDP, 5% of the GDP going into the health sector. That is up to government, the policy makers to decide. But there is no gainsaying the fact that we have to focus on healthcare. Till a viable vaccine is found and it is applied, we have no way but to focus on health. And as Dr. Katoj has pointed out, what is the remedy? What is our bulwark against COVID now? It's only the immunity. The immunity which has come from our way of life, the food that we eat, the immunity that has been given to us by our mothers, our tradition, our culture. We have to do whatever is required to increase the immunity of the people. And there it is not health alone. Economics is also involved. What is the priority? For the poor people, yes, I am given the charge of the labor. Earlier I was told it is 8 crores, now I am told it is 40 crores, including the seasonal migrants also now. How do they get the immunity? They should first have access to food. Therefore, feeding the people is very important even now. And secondly, they should have wages. Now, unless people have money in their hands, unless there is income, how do they buy the food? Now, it's true that government's buffer stock is enough. Government's buffer stock is more than enough for 6 months. And the recent production, we have 290 million tons of food grains. Yes, at the macro level, we are safe as far as food is concerned. But at the micro level, I think government's policy, even while we say healthcare is the most important, food and income are required to, if you want immunity to be built up in the people. And number two, the healthcare system. I think kudos to the healthcare fraternity. But are we fair to them? I hear last time also Dr. Goyal pointed it out in a discussion. See, the bureaucracy, including me, I was once upon a time a bureaucrat. How are we treating the doctors, the nurses? Some of them, even disciplinary action is taken out against them. If somebody commits suicide in a hospital, you take action against the doctors, how and why? And for demanding PPE, some doctors are suspended or nurses are suspended. And they are asking, during the COVID period, give us some reasonable time for work. For 1 week, if you are attending to COVID, the next week, why not the non-COVID areas? I think we have to have a heart. We should know that the medical fraternity in the whole country, whether it is Ayush or whether it is allopathy, they are the bulwark of the nation against the enemy COVID. So we have to be humane to them. I think we should have a re-look at how we treat our doctors and medical men. Then a third, there is a neglected lot now. The doctors can correct me. I am told, I don't know whether I'm right or wrong, that 50,000 people died of tuberculosis because they could not get attention because of our focus only on COVID. And we hear statistics, X number of, say, lakhs of COVID beds. But is it a deprivation of the other patients? I think we should have a wholesome look at the medical center. Answer lies in what Dr. Pillai has suggested. I think eminent doctors, clinicians, experts, nutritionists, social workers, social scientists, bureaucrats should all sit together. That is a committee which Dr. Pillai has been suggesting. Yes, the government of India is certainly taking all steps for this. But when it comes from an experienced doctor, a representative of the medical fraternity, we should care more for that. I'm not blaming the government has done whatever it could. Certainly, kudos to government. But there is always room for improvement. And we should learn from the experience of the eminent doctors here. In fact, I would say, for the information of Mr. Goyal and Mr. Katoj, last time we had a committee of national leaders in which Dr. M.B. Pillai, he happened to be in India. See, he works in the Thomas Jefferson University, but he could not get back. He got locked down here. He gave a few suggestions in that meeting of national leaders. Everyone was impressed by that. When we have talent like Goyal, like Dr. Pillai, I think the suggestion which he made, we should have a national forum where all these eminent doctors, bureaucrats, policymakers, clinicians, all those who can do matter should sit together and decide for what he calls to win the war. we have won a few battles. We may even lose a few battles. But we should see, this is not going to be a war which is going to end in a day. We should not be like, as Matthew Arnold said, we should not be like ignorant armies pass at night. That is why this forum, which Dr. Pillai has suggested. And Dr. Goyal has had the vision. 1 month back, he said, I don't know whether he used the expression, we may have a COVID tsunami, a surge. That is what we are witnessing here now. Therefore, we have no time to waste. Fortunately, we have a lot of talent within the country. Therefore, utilize them. And I was very inspired when Dr. Katwal said about the various strides which they have made in the field of Ayush. Yes, it's a great asset for us. Let's all join together. I am sure the day will come, the world will look at India and say, look at India and learn. India can deliver. India has delivered. We have also helped other countries. We are emerging as a global leader in COVID combat. I am sure that the day is not far when India will lead the world, and certainly will one day be sitting together to say that COVID has been eliminated. Sure, we will achieve it. As Martin Luther said, we shall overcome. Sure, we shall overcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bose. We shall overcome. Definitely, we shall overcome. And how empathetically as well as beautifully you have mentioned, and you have given the complete details that we should try to, we should give full respect to the medical fraternity, because of them we are safe. You have also mentioned that the government is trying their best for the integration. The government is taking the advices of all the top doctors, and definitely a committee has to be formed, national forum has to be formed, where all the top doctors, all the top brains, all the policymakers, the bureaucrats should sit together as suggested by Dr. Pillai. And you have also mentioned that what Dr. Goyal has mentioned last month in our program only, that the India can have a tsunami, and that surge we are seeing now. So we have to be very, very practical. We have to see what is the expert, what all experts says. Now I would like to go to Dr. Pillai. Dr. Pillai, you are an advisor to Global Virus Network, and you are instrumental in establishing the Institute of Advanced Virology in Kerala as part of Global Virus Network. Now, my question to you is living with the virus a safe strategy for India?
Living with the virus, what?
Is the safe strategy for India?
I think we don't have much choices here. This is not a problem which we created. This is something we are sharing with the rest of the world. And the chances are that in the next 18 months to 2 years, we may have a vaccine. About 120 laboratories are working on this challenge. We may have a vaccine, and our first jump in our success is that many vaccines have been found to be safe. Great. The next step will be, are they efficacious? Are they effective? And that's what's going to take some time. The third question would be, how long will they be effective? Can we have a sustained efficacy after a single shot, or do we need a vaccination or injection every year, like what we do for flu? Those questions remain unanswered. My own suggestion is that India desperately needs an establishment for quality control, because with all this self-reliance that our Honorable Prime Minister is now introducing in India, our markets are going to be flooded with testing equipments, new medicines, new technologies, which can catch up all over the country in no time. How many of them are really worth it? We now know that even the highly celebrated RT-PCR, which we consider as the gold standard for diagnosing COVID disease, is not 100% foolproof. Even in the best circumstances, the sensitivity comes only up to 75%, which means a patient can harbor the virus and still be negative. So how do we circumvent this problem? And that's where the clinical decision-making comes into practice. The patient has fever, or what we call ILI. You may be reading more and more about this ILI in media. It is influenza-like illness. If a patient walks in with an influenza-like illness, even if the test is negative, we are not going to send him or her home because there's a high index of suspicion. So it's a confluence of different parameters we use. But we need to highlight the fact that the antibody test, the best of setup, we have only 55 to 60% sensitivity. RT-PCR, in the best labs, we have only 70 to 75% test positivity. Even then, the method of taking the sample, the transportation, the storage, everything can influence the test results. So I think the government of India should immediately formulate a committee to check the quality of all these services, the equipment, the new drugs which are likely to flood the market as efficacious. And without a quality data, our assertions and our recommendations to the rest of the world will not be acceptable to the scientific community. So in answer to your question, yes, the virus will be with us for a foreseeable future, and hopefully like smallpox and poliomyelitis, with the combined effort of the World Scientific Forum, including the Global Virus Network of 52 centers in 34 countries, of which India is now a part through the Institute of Advanced Virology in Kerala. In due course, we may be able to identify a system by which such coronaviruses can be erased from the surface of the globe. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pillai, for giving the details about that. Till the time the vaccine will not come, we have to live with the virus, but we have to clinically assess and see to it that we can treat the patients. But the only question remains, even if the vaccine will come, the population of the world is about 7 billion. How much time it will take to reach the vaccine, to vaccinate each and every citizen of the world? So that is also a question which we have to answer. It may take 2 years or 3 years, we don't know. So till the time how we will survive, that is again a question. Now I would like to go to Dr. Goyal. Dr. Goyal, you have recently published an article and made some suggestions to control COVID. What is your assessment of current status of COVID control? Dr. Goyal, please.
I think a lot has been achieved in last 3 to 4 months. The very fact that everybody is appreciating the low numbers, the low death rates, is because of the efforts put in by the government and the medical sector together. Now the time has come to consolidate on these gains. We need to realize that contrary to again going back to the living with virus or a herd immunity, it automatically means herd immunity. The very fact that the IgG antibodies are declining within 2 to 3 months, that approach is not a valid approach. After 3 months, the population may be again exposed to the same virus circulating. So I think in the light of developments in last 1 week, the policymakers need to rethink about this approach. So how do we control the virus now? If we are not going for living with virus, how do we control? I think the first and the foremost thing is that we need to improve our quality of our isolation facilities. Using railway carriages like in Delhi or using containers as ICU rooms in Mumbai doesn't inspire confidence. If one of us gets an infection, I would not like to be isolated in a railway carriage where we don't even travel nowadays. So I think the government has to realize that we have moved on, the country has moved on, our expectations have gone up. So first and the foremost thing is a very good quality quarantine facility, and which is not very difficult to do. It has been done in some cities already in India. We just need to improve and have enormous amount of quarantine facility. Why it is needed? This containment zone business that is happening is just like a lockdown in a small area. So you have a containment zone, Dharavi is a containment zone for a certain period. It's like Dharavi is in a lockdown. So if lockdown has not worked for the whole nation, how can you say that a localized lockdown in the name of containment will work? because it deprives the economy of that community. So all that is required is a quick testing. And fortunately now we have the testing technology like the antigen test, antibody test, which can give results within minutes. A quick testing of the entire containment zone, taking away people who are infected or who are symptomatic into hospitals or quarantines, and let other people the containment zone open. Each citizen is a productive asset of our country and must be used to work and open up the economy of the country. So I think this is an important issue that has to be done. So isolation of every contact. Now, why people are reluctant to go in an institutional quarantine in Delhi? Because the quality of quarantine. If they are assured of a good quality of quarantine and communication with their family members, nobody would hesitate to go. So I think these are the issues which are at the crux of the whole thing, and they have to be sorted out. Contact tracing. So if we have one infected person, at least 15 of the 20 of the contacts have to be identified and isolated. These are the people who are not even symptomatic. They don't even know that they have a disease and they are spreading virus in the society. So I think from treatment part, which government has taken care very well in last 4 months, which has reinforced the treatment facilities, now we must very quickly move on to contact tracing and isolation. And if this is applied across the country, I'm sure we can on a daily basis announce 5 cities which are COVID-free, 10 cities which are COVID-free, and keep on adding state by state. We can accept those 15, 20 large concentration areas where we need to do a pool testing. How did Wuhan came out of this infection? They tested every citizen of Wuhan. Every citizen of Wuhan was tested at one time. And once they did, they isolated all the infected persons. We don't need to test the whole nation like that. We just need to test citizens of those containment zones and every possible contact of a new case. And that is the way to go ahead. It will require, as I mentioned in my article, massive investments. But if we make investments now, we don't have to bear the expenses later. Investment is which brings return to the society. Expenditure is a lost cause. So I think we need to think in a positive way, looking ahead, how do we save our nation from this major disease?
Thank you, Dr. Goel. That investment is required today, because if we will not invest today, then the expenditure will be lost forever. And you have also mentioned that we have to do the contact tracing as early as possible. We have to improve the quality of quarantine centers, so the general public should change their perception and they should go to quarantine center, the institutional quarantine centers provided by the government. Now, we have been joined with our guest. He's Dr. Rajan Sharma. Dr. Rajan Sharma is the National President, Indian Medical Association. He has 7 international publications. He is Paul Harris Rotarian. He was Rotary Medical Mission Director of Rwanda, Gabon, Cameroon, Zimbabwe, etc. He played a very important role during COVID-19 pandemic in amendment of National Epidemic Act for including violence against healthcare workers and establishments, inclusion of healthcare establishments under MSME, drafting clinical guidelines for medical professionals, and also the infrastructure development of IMA House, Delhi. Welcome, Dr. Rajan Sharma, to our show. Earlier, we have discussed about today's topic, but we would like to know from you about COVID-19. Can India still control Corona? Dr. Rajan Sharma, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, my sincere apologies for being late, but I got an emergency, so I was operating. And the moment I saw Dr. Raman Goel's missed call, so I just called back to join him. Just took some time to wear a tie and a shirt. Be formal. See, sir, I firmly believe that effort which started off and central government pulling out all horses to build up the infrastructure from a zero PPE kit producing nation to the second largest in the world, everything was going the way, the perfect way. But when the command shifted to states, we were let down. Let me be very frank. Every state had its own agenda, had its own thinking of the system. And I can share with you, because this is a group of planners, Dr. Katoch is there. He must have been sitting in all the meetings and all. That suddenly, that doctor as a planner was totally missing. And every day, this is the first time in the country, sir, that we as doctors had so many instructions coming in from all directions that even we were a confused lot. You all will agree with me. And one day we have WHO guidelines, the other day they are rebutted. Then we have our national guidelines, then we have our state guidelines. Dr. Raman Goyal talked about Wuhan. We have a living successful example with us in Mumbai. By month end, Mumbai is they are successful in flattening the curve. And when we come to it, we Indians know how to do wonders. And we can achieve the impossible, and I am very sure the moment we come out of this crisis, the amount of research publications and amount of management, protocols and innovative ideas, the world will just see. It will be just like a nano car. When Tata started a nano car project, Lumex Industries from Japan, they are one of the most expensive headlight manufacturers. They say, no sir, we want to be part of this project, and ultimately it led to the biggest cost cutting effort in the automobile industry. Today, if MMRDA's stadium was taken over and the cardboard beds was a success, there was a very, very wrong attempt which has cost us by putting down the numbers of testing, taking away the authority of the doctor to advise testing. And every day the patient was confused, the doctor was confused. And from participation, suddenly the penalization attempts started. If you don't do this, I will do this. If you don't do this, I will do this. Now the classic example is one state in which we were even called black marketers. And when it was pointed out, they said the FIR has been lodged against a building. Does anybody understand what is Gangaram Hospital? We all know what is Gangaram Hospital. It is a private sector AIIMS. And I still feel that whatever has happened, let it pass. But when it comes to modern medicine, Dr. Katoch sir, every advisory of Ayush department, I don't have any problems with anything. I am a firm believer everybody has to survive and let it thrive. But every advisory should have a line below. Don't neglect your symptoms. And we have already written to your ministry, and you have also rightly cracked down on them. There are so many spurious manufacturers cashing on the sentiments of the people to build immunity. And this is the right time, sir, to introduce strict quality controls in these product manufacturing things. Now coming to the heartening aspect is, majority of India, if you see the chart, we are left with 4 hotspot states. Today, we can very proudly say which all states have invested heavily into the public health. Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka are doing extremely well. If you see Tamil Nadu, the numbers are very high, mortality is low. Now Delhi has overshot everybody and Maharashtra is still leading the roost. But comparatively, many of the states and most of these states also, there are many districts which are disease-free or very low mortality. And that is going to save the situation for us. But now testing has to be ramped up, sir. Along with testing, clinical examination is a must. Having a COVID certificate that I have done, got the COVID testing done, is not enough. I'm glad that now the private sector has been asked to do testing. The antigen testing is there. Now a rapid RT-PCR testing also is there. Let's use all the facilities. Because the biggest problem is going to with the non-COVID patients. All our national programs are suffering. Tuberculosis is suffering. Immunization is tough. Then elective surgeries. If a patient is COVID positive or a silent carrier, and if we subject him to a surgery, his morbidity is more than 30 to 40%. And oncology surgery, so it is a must. So now is the time I feel from the government sector, this is going to come to the private sector in every town, every city. We all doctors, whether IMA or in any form of any specialties, have to come up and meet the expectations and take care of these things. And one thing is there, whatever neglect of healthcare investment and GDP in the past cannot be done up with in just 2 months. It is high time. When SARS came, Hong Kong, Singapore, they developed excellent ICCU protocols. Their entire staff was trained in it. So now is the time that we should invest heavily into skill development, including doctors who are sitting in practices. We are doing routine surgeries, routine things, but now everybody has to be there in the first, second, third line of defense, and this practical training has to be there in the times to come. We are developing good protocols as far as scientific management is concerned. Drugs are coming. Happy hypoxia time period is being identified, and I would very happily share with you. IMA is by this we have issued a study on how to decrease mortality. Whether it is renal thrombosis, whether it is initial hypoxia, initially starting off low molecular weight, we have put in a high-powered experts who are dealing in COVID, active COVID areas. So these all efforts, I definitely believe it will take some time. I always used to say, COVID is here to stay, just like swine flu and just like dengue. It is here to stay. And ultimately, by the time any vaccination comes, we are a resource-constrained country. To vaccinate 130 crore population, by the time we end with it, we have another population nightmare more. And same is true for testing. So we have to identify the red spot areas, even decongest the slum areas for some time. People will understand, they know, because it is such a deadly thing. But the most important thing, we all should strive, if possible, and rather this is the only solution to take the panic out of this. Swine flu had 6%, this has 3%. If we take the sensation out of it, the fear psychosis out of this, and let it be in pure scientific hands, I think we can win this battle. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma, for giving your assessment about the corona. And you have mentioned very clearly, let the doctors to handle this problem. Let the government should allow, and now they have allowed the private hospitals to do the testing. the doctors clinically examine all the patients, whether it's negative or not. And you also said that it is the time that we should come out from the panic mode, and we should take it and do it on the scientific way with the experts, those who are already in the field. Now I would like to go to Dr. Katoch. Dr. Katoch, you have heard what earlier panelists have mentioned. And you have said, like Dr. Pillai and Dr. Goyal, as well as Dr. Sharma. And their emphasis is that, yes, they are ready, they are doing all their best, but the government should allow the private practitioners or the medical fraternity to clinically examine all the patients, to decide about the testings and start testing in a big way. What is your take about it? And what about the Ministry of Ayush is doing to contain this pandemic, apart from that you have issued the immunity boosters, for which Dr. Sharma has also said that you should also have one line of precaution, because so many black marketeers or those black sheeps, they are misusing even in this type of national emergency, which is very disgraceful for us. But government has to take action. And so now what is your view about this? Dr. Katoch, please.
Thank you. You see, I just go back to 1978 when this Almata Declaration was made. UN Almata Declaration, WHO Declaration. If you see what WHO statement that Almata Declaration says, that promote socially acceptable and culturally appropriate health technologies which can help in preventing primary risk of the illness or of the disease. Now, this concept is very, very strong in traditional Indian system of medicine, very, very strong. I firmly believe that we need to distinct between medical care and health care. No, the medical interventions are different. Medical interventions are different. It means when the person has become ill, after that, whatever you do, that is medical intervention. But before the person becomes ill, what you do, that is the healthcare. So healthcare concept is entirely different from the medical care. Now, in our country, if you see almost 70 to 75% of the health infrastructure, that is in private sector. Whether it is the medical or whether it is the Ayush side also. Even in the Ayush side, we have around 711 colleges, and hardly 100 colleges, they are in the government sector, others are in the private sector. We have 26,000 government dispensaries, but more clinics are there in the private sector. Similarly, the hospital. In the government sector, hardly 4,000 Ayush hospitals are there in the government sector. Others, they are in the private sector. And more so in the tertiary care level. Now, I think these facilities need to be utilized properly. Doctor is doctor, whether he is working in a government hospital or working in a private hospital. So the private hospitals, the private functionaries, private institutions, I think those need to be utilized properly, optimally, I think, in the context of this COVID-19. I think, and if some kind of training is required to be given to them, that kind of training can be given to them, or orientation training or sensitization training or whatever it may be. But that kind of training should be given, and these doctors and these institutions must be utilized. Now, if you see the distribution of the health facilities in the country, now the secondary care and the tertiary care hospitals, they are confined only to the urban areas. Whereas 60 to 70% of Indian population, they are in the rural areas. So accessibility, affordability of the healthcare, that is also a question. How to address this issue? That is very important, very important. Now in Delhi, any person can go to any kind of hospital, can go to any. If the healthcare being provided from a private hospital is affordable to a person goes there. Now the insurance coverage, if you see, the insurance coverage in our country, it is hardly, I think, less than 40%. Less than 40%. So that concept of insurance coverage, that has not come up very strong in our country. It is hardly 40%. Even the public insurance schemes like this Ayushman Bharat and other scheme, they are also have not come up very well. The distribution of the facilities and the affordability, these are some of the issues. Now when we have a time-tested knowledge system, I am talking about Ayush systems, particularly Ayurveda and Yoga. These are time-tested, 5,000 years old, well documented. The scientific inputs have gone into these systems. Now, and these systems, they are socially acceptable, culturally appropriate. Why not to make optimal use of these systems? Why not? I think this is the thing I would also request Dr. Sharma that the medical fraternity should also join hands with the healthcare fraternity. I am saying that the Ayush people, they are the healthcare fraternity. I am not saying the medical care fraternity. So I think if some gaps can be bridged by joining hands, by coming together, I think we can win the war. So that is the message which I want to give. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Katoch. We can win the war if both the fraternity, the medical fraternity as well as the healthcare fraternity, means the allopathy doctors as well as the Ayush doctors join hands. Definitely it will serve the purpose and we will win the war. Now I would like to go to Dr. Bose. Dr. Bose, you have heard all the specialists, all the doctors. Now you being a bureaucrat, and you know the main crux for any fight or any battle is the funds, the money. Now, seeing this, the condition, and like Dr. Sharma has also raised the same thing, until unless, and you have also mentioned about the GDP, that why not we should spend 5% GDP. But our record says that our expenditure on the medical care or the health care is very, very less. So now do you think the government revisit and the government should increase the budget drastically so that the medical fraternity or as well as the healthcare people would like to serve the people with full zeal? Because until unless the funds will not be there, the proper testing will not be there, the proper quarantine centers will not be there, or the hospitals will not be there, how the doctors or the healthcare workers can do their work? Dr. Bose, please. Please unmute, Doctor. Dr. Bose, please unmute.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Goel. Now it's a square issue, squarely drawn. See, the Bible says love of money is the root of all evil. But during COVID days, we would like to go with Mark Twain, who said, lack of money is the root of all evil. Yes, government has got a duty, a responsibility to provide adequate funds so that the medical care and the health care both can be taken care of equitably. I suggested that up to 5%, that all depends on the working of the details. All that I would like to underscore is that in this fight, as we have already agreed in the earlier discussions too, there is no choice between health and wealth. Health is the thing. Therefore, our focus should be on health. And to the extent wealth is required, because we also should have life and livelihood going together. But priority should always be for healthcare. Lack of funds should never stand in the way. Government has to loosen its purse strings for healthcare and medical care, where that is the emergency requirement. Unless we keep the health of the people in the forefront, we cannot win this war against COVID. Now, there was a very momentous statement made here, either by Dr. Pillai or by Goel, that every life is important. Every human being is important. I may draw your attention to something which happened recently. Somebody told me, see, there was what is called in certain season, a big shoal of fish will come on the shore. That is a big catch for the fishermen. Thousands and thousands and thousands of fish will come automatically onto the shore. You only have to pick it up. Naturally, out of the water, the fish will die. One old man, he was taking the fish one by one, throwing into the ocean. Somebody told him, "What are you doing? You may be able to throw into the sea 10 or 100 fish. But there are millions of fish here. What is the use of this action?" He didn't answer. He threw one more fish into the sea and asked that fish, "What is the use of my action?" Every life is important. Every life. Their money is not what matters. Government has to focus on this. Government has to find ways and means of supporting the medical fraternity, who are the protectors of the nation, the protectors of the people. So there is no doubt about the priority which government has to give. And now, being a practical, oriented civil servant or one-time civil servant, I would say, in the normal circumstances, we would never advocate deficit financing. No, never. But in a situation like this, even to the extent of going for deficit financing, we should see that more money is pumped into the market for two things: for healthcare and also for survival of the people. As we earlier said, survival of the people, building up immunity means good food, which means they should have enough money to buy food. Therefore, this is also part of the healthcare. This is also part of the well-being of the people. Therefore, government has to find unusual solutions to unusual problems. As they say, Alvin Toffler speaks about advocacy. Bureaucracy can solve problems in normal days. Rules, regulations, precedents. No, now what we need is advocacy. New problems need new solutions, new ways to pay old debts. I think we have to change our thinking about this. Another point which was raised here, which I think is very, very relevant. See, the president, honorable president of the IMA, he made a statement. Whatever we do, we should insist on quality, yes. We should insist on quality. Even in economics, we should insist on quality, not only in healthcare. And now, since COVID has come from China, I would like to draw your attention to something, a folk tale from China. A monk from the Buddhist Vihara, he was going with his teachers to the forest to teach them botany, to teach them how to live with the nature. He saw a beautiful flower. Enamored of its beauty, the monk went to pluck it. To his surprise, he found that the beautiful petals of the beautiful flower flew off in different directions. What flew off were not the beautiful petals of the beautiful flower, but a set of ugly insects. These ugly insects again fly back to and converge to another point, and from ugliness, beauty is born. This transformation, this metamorphosis, will take place only if you have a central point which is desirable, which is good. And what the President IMA said is quality. Quality should be the central point to which all our efforts converge. Then that metamorphosis will take place. That is the creation of beauty from ugliness. That is what we need here. Whether it is healthcare, whether it is medical care, whether it is allopathy, whether it is Ayurveda. I would say insist on quality. Once the whole nation, not only in healthcare and medical care, in whatever we do in the corona comeback, we should have quality, dedication, commitment. That quality which the medical fraternity has shown, that should permeate the entire society, including the bureaucracy, including the political setup. I think, as Xi Jinping said, great things in history always tend to happen during disasters. I think this is a disaster which will also bring in great things in the country, not only in the field of healthcare and medical care. I think even in the national character. Let us focus on quality, which Mr. Sharma pointed out, not only in healthcare, not only in corona comeback. Let it become the national policy. I'm sure that tomorrow, the whole world will turn back to India and say, this is how we should go about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bose. That the character, you are saying that quality not only in the healthcare or medical care, but even the character of everyone. So then the country can grow and everyone can say that, yes, this is the India with full of character. Now, in the last round, I would like to ask Dr. Pillai, because we have limited time, but what suggestions you would like to give to the government and what advice you want to give to the public? Dr. Pillai, please. Please unmute yourself. Dr. Pillai, please unmute. Yes, please.
All right. I think the one and only suggestion I can make, take away this stigma from COVID disease, because we paid heavily for stigmatizing diseases. Tuberculosis was considered to be a stigmatized disease. HIV for a long time was looked down as a stigmatized disease. If there is anything interfering with our smooth implementation of the resolution of the COVID epidemic, it is a stigma. People are not happy to admit that somebody in the family has corona disease. This is not anybody's fault. So we should be able to take away the stigma attached to this disease. The second thing is, the government of India should immediately put together a national epidemic intelligence service, the EIS, closely on the heels of the Center for Disease Control in USA, and try to design it, customize it for the Indian setting. ICMR can take leadership, or the National Center for Disease Control can take leadership. But the crux of the matter is to get a universal acceptance in all states of the country, so that the Republic functions in synergy, bringing out the necessary harmony, which is absolutely an essential component of our success in this fight.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Pillai, for giving that India should have a very full, you can say the complete policy like what you have in USA on the lines of CDC, but in Indian way. And now I would like to go to Dr. Goyal. What are your suggestions and what are your suggestions to the government and advice to the public? Dr. Goyal, please.
So I think my suggestion to the central government, because they did a marvelous job in first 3 months, as Dr. Sharma also pointed out, is that they should take command of this COVID battle, and there should be a unified approach. In the previous program, Dr. Bose had once asked me whether health is important or wealth is important. That was the time whether economic development, incentive and stimulus was coming. So to the government, it is that health is wealth. If we are able to invest in health, we will have dividends in terms of economic survival or economic growth of the country. So I think investment in health is desperately needed. It is not for improving the salaries or anything. It's not about how much doctors are paid. It's more in terms of creating health infrastructure and taking measures to control COVID. So I think this is my only suggestion to the government. As far as individuals and citizens are concerned, I think the fear of disease must go away. There is no denying that social distancing measures and hand hygiene have to be continued. But the fear, in the sense that people are not coming out to get tested, people are not coming to the hospitals, I see those social messages that it is better to remain at home rather than going to a hospital. These messages must be stopped completely. They must be declared illegal. Everybody who is suffering from this disease must come to a doctor and must go to a hospital for treatment immediately. I think if this is taken care, we have won the battle almost there. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Goyal, for giving suggestion to that the government should create more infrastructure, invest in infrastructure, as well as suggestion to the public, advice to the public that please don't be in the fear and go to the nearest doctor immediately if you feel something and get yourself checked. Now I would like to go to Dr. Rajan Sharma about his suggestions to the government and advice to the public.
I only have one request. Dr. Katoch, if we can take care of this WhatsApp university. it will sort out all the problems of the country. Is WhatsApp University, what it's doing? People sitting at home except giving knowledge. So much so I got a call from one media house, sir. Oxford University has now discovered a new medicine, dexamethasone. So it will revolutionize. So I said, it is a Ramban ilaj of every problem where a doctor does not understand. As far as I agree with Dr. Katoch, we will fight later on between, but that is also not a fight, but some views. But let me tell you, extreme bonhomie occurs when an Ayurvedic doctor graduates and he practices allopathic medicine in the field. So we all have to be together in this battle. And I again stress, which I have been writing to the government repeatedly, one nation, one set of guidelines. And I say with authority that we doctors, we know how to survive. We have an uncanny knack of survival. Trust our instinct to every grassroots, every person in the field. But yes, every adversity or difficult times bring out a positive thing. And this positive thing is health is going to be the next central and the most important political agenda of this country. Which we were lacking. And here it is for the planners, not for me, but for the planners to create an extreme bonhomie between private sector, government sector, and the single couple doctor setups and doctor-owned setups which are pan-India, which IMA represents. We all have to work in tandem with each other. Yes, resources have been over-constrained, but financial health of everybody is very important. I am glad that MSME inclusion has been done, and we hope it is smooth, because now we are staring at financial losses. Even smaller setups. Patient is scared. That is why the need to take away the fear stigma. The patient is scared to come for surgeries that we might get. Pediatric OPDs are going down. So COVID has to be managed. Non-COVID also has to be practically managed. And this can only happen when we remove this stigma. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma, for giving the suggestion. The first thing is that the WhatsApp University should be closed because the wrong information is more harmful than the disease. And secondly, you have mentioned that the stigma should go, and all the different, whether it's a government hospitals or the private sectors, or even a single doctor where the IMA stands, should have work all together. And now I would like to go to Dr. Katoch, although you are in government, but still, if you have any suggestion to the government as well as advice to the public, Dr. Katoch, please.
So why it is called government? Because ये मिनट पे गौर करती है, इसीलिए गवर्नमेंट कहा जाता है.
बड़ी देर बाद सुना है, बहुत देर बाद सुना है.
देखिए कि अभी बात हो रही थी हेल्थ इज वेल्थ, वेल्थ के बारे में बात हो रही थी. इफ यू सी द हेल्थ अकाउंट्स ऑफ द कंट्री, नेशनल हेल्थ अकाउंट्स, तो नेशनल हेल्थ अकाउंट्स में जो है you can make an assessment that okay, how much funds are being given to the health sector, but we in the Ayush Ministry, we don't know how much funds are being given to Ayush sector. Means at the center level we know, but in the state there is no bifurcation. Means the percentage of the funds to be given to Ayush sector, that is not defined, it is not prescribed. So this is one thing. So for health development, we need more and more funding to the health sector. That is important. That is important. And second is this the insurance aspect, health insurance aspect. I think this needs to be promoted. This needs to be augmented, and more coverage under health insurance schemes that is required. Now, regarding this COVID-19, I think we are discussing in the context of only this COVID-19. We need to come together. This is very, very important. Unless we come together, I think we cannot achieve the objective. If you see in Upanishad, I think somewhere in the Upanishad it is mentioned that for any kind of objective, to achieve any objective, 4 kinds of workers are required. 4 kinds of workers. The first worker means in the government setting or in the that is the policy maker. The second is executor, and the third is implementer, and the fourth one is that is very, very important. That is the field worker. So at the field level, the integration is not there. If you see the national health policy, it talks about integration in Ayush, between Ayush and a modern health system at the policy level. And the enabling frameworks are also there. The administrative framework are there. Dr. Sharma just raised this point that the Ayush doctors, they are doing allopathic practice. Now, the enabling provisions are there in the Act. The Act for the practice, it is there. So the state authorities, the state governments, they have authorized Ayush doctors to practice modern medicine to the extent they are trained in. Now, in our country, the unfortunate part is that Ayush students, they are taught 40% of the modern medicine, anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, pathology, that is being taught. But on the other hand side, to the medical students, not even a single lecture of Ayush is being taught. They don't know what Ayush is all about. वो ये समझते हैं कि ये चूरन चटनी पाउडर यही है. No, there is a complete science behind this system, and that is why these systems have survived. So means to dispel the ignorance about the potential, about the scope. This is the dilemma. This is the dilemma. Ignorance is the dilemma. I think because of that, our country is suffering, particularly in the healthcare service. I think we need to integrate and at the field level. So I would request the medical fraternity as well as the Ayush fraternity that we need to come together and work together to achieve the objective of health development of the country.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Katoch, that you require.
Dr. Goel, 1 minute. Dr. Goel, 1 minute.
Yeah.
Dr. Katoch, my observation of prescription was that blending is happening at the field.
Yes.
Not that I am criticizing that.
Right.
The GP's role has been ceded to our Ayush friends.
Right.
It is not.
Right.
What I still say, rather than teaching each other and creating a dangerous mix, let's create and develop this specialty so much that tomorrow, besides MBBS, let them opt for Ayurveda.
Right. I think the cross-system referral is required.
Mixing is creating the problem. Yes. You won't gain anything by teaching one Ayurvedic subject to one MBBS doctor or to the Ayurveda. Let's grow together. Siddha, Unani, anybody.
Dr. Sharma and Dr. Katoch, this is a very important subject. I think we can keep a discussion next time on this subject only, Yunan, this Ayurveda, as well as on medical science. Now the last, I can say the last word from Dr. Bose. Suggestions and the advice.
Is it clear?
Yeah, we can hear.
Yeah. Thank you for the bonus you have given to me. Now I can go and boast to my wife and children that in an important discussion involving eminent doctors, I had the last word. So thank you for inviting me as the last speaker. Now, what has India discovered? What is the takeaway from this? That is what Dr. Sharma has said. India has discovered its strength. See, on the banks of the Nile, crocodiles are there. Animals come for drinking water. The crocodile will come, catch hold of its leg, and drag it to the water. Once, first came a zebra, poor animal. The crocodile caught it, dragged it. Then came the rhinoceros. Stealthily, the crocodile goes behind it, and from underneath gives a big bite on its belly, turns it somersault, that animal is also dead. Then comes the lioness with her 2 cubs. The lioness comes, relaxes on the shore. The crocodile comes to catch hold of one of the lion cubs. Slowly it moves. The lioness smells something wrong. It doesn't do anything. The lioness just lifts its head. The crocodile goes back. Still, it has not disappeared. The lioness turns its head towards the crocodile. The crocodile runs for its life. What did the lioness do? Nothing. The lioness knew its internal strength. Once it knew its internal strength, that is enough. India has realized our internal strength. And now, in future, let us use this internal strength to revolve around quality. I think that is perhaps the message which I can give from this. Now, number 2, here we had discussed about public sector and private sector in the medical field. I would say let's have no doctrinaire affinity towards public sector or private sector. There should be only success sector. Whichever it is, the nation should support it. Yes, the take home is not gold, but only man can make a country great and strong. Not gold, but only man can make a nation great and strong. India has discovered its manly qualities, its human qualities. If we stand together, the future is ours. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bose. Future is ours if we stand together. So today you have seen that how India still can control the corona. And this is the way, because we have brought all the experts of the field and they have given their opinion. And once you people, the viewers, if you will accept those opinions given by them, and especially don't try to look towards the WhatsApp University or those media reports which are giving a wrong one-side report only. But here, the expert opinions from their mouth directly. So that is what our aim is. And this today's program, which is a live telecast by V4 News, News Karnataka, Global TV, Malnadu TV, as well as on Facebook and YouTube. And our endeavor is to bring such types of programs every day so that at least the viewers will come to know the reality. And tomorrow our program, which is also coming, which is a very, very important subject, that is COVID-19 impact on Indian mothers. And we have 6 mothers who are going to share their views, their opinions, and I am sure that you would like to view that and listen. So please tune at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. Thank you very much. Thank you all the dignitaries. Thank you, Dr. Bose. Thank you, Dr. Rajan Sharma. Thank you, Dr. Pillai, Dr. Raman Goel, Dr. Katoch for joining our program. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goel. Just one word. I think the COVID itself is an acronym. I think COVID, the word COVID, it also gives a lot of messages. COVID means creating opportunities for virtual innovation and development.
Excellent.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Katoch, for giving such a good definition of COVID. Thank you very much. Thanks.